Ah, yes, the golden calf. One of those images of the Bible that stays with us. You can bet the filmmaker Cecil B. DeMille had fun with this epic moment of his epic picture, The Ten Commandments, which we played for you earlier in the service. I always loved that G-rated orgy with all those extras holding up wine bottles and swirling around the calf. Oh, and in case you didn't notice, the text in the movie isn't actually what is in the Bible. It's old movie text written to sound like biblical text. So we all know the story. Moses goes up on the mountain to meet with God, and the people back in the camp, led by Aaron, build an image of a golden calf. This is idol worship, right? A violation of the commandments that prohibit idols and graven images. The metaphor of worshiping an idol is appropriate to so many things in our culture that it resonates easily, and we feel like we know the meaning of this passage without a lot of explanation. We all know what the idols are for us in our civilization: wealth, glamour, prestige, worldly achievement. The golden calf is a golden metaphor for all the alluring distractions that challenge our faith. So we're done, right? No need for a sermon? Actually, when you look a little closer, you soon see that it's a little more complicated. For instance, think about this. They built the statue of the calf while Moses was up on the mountain getting the Ten Commandments, so they didn't have the Ten Commandments yet. So how can these people be expected to know the rules about idols and graven images? When we read it, we just assume they already know. And it's not like they just get a slap on the wrist for breaking this rule they didn't know about. 3,000 people are actually killed over this. Experts believe the oldest books of the Bible were compiled from a number of different sources. Of course, these stories were part of an oral tradition for centuries, and they got written down at different points by different people. And then, long, long ago, although not as long ago as Moses, they were compiled back together into a continuous written narrative. The scholars identify these authors by word choice, context clues, and other techniques, and they label their versions with single letters. The Ten Commandments appear twice in Exodus. The first appearance is associated with E, who is thought to be from the northern kingdom, and the second appearance is with J, who is from the southern kingdom. The E version tells the story of the golden calf, and the J version doesn't mention it. The northern kingdom had this history with calves, and is not a happy history. According to 1 Kings, King Jeroboam of the northern kingdom created 2 calves of gold and placed them at different spots in the kingdom to define worship spaces. This is many years after Exodus, mind you, but it is somewhere closer to the parts of the Bible when the parts of the Bible are melded together. The scripture tells us that the reason he created these calves was to keep his subjects from going all the way to Jerusalem, which was in the southern kingdom, with their offerings and rituals, because he didn't want them to start liking the southern king better. According to the Bible, this led to judgment by God against the house of Jeroboam, and the northern kingdom fell to the Assyrians. That's the story we're told. But the part the scholars talk about that the Bible doesn't talk about is that it was a common practice in ancient religions in that part of the world to picture a god riding on a wild animal, or perhaps seated on a throne borne by wild animals. Some scholars believe the golden calf might not have been a replacement for God, but might have been instead a throne or pedestal for God, an image that anticipated God's presence, just as we might anticipate God's presence with a statue of an angel. When God arrives on his fiery chariot at the beginning of Ezekiel, for example, you see that God is indeed attended by animals. Weird animals, to be fair, but still animals. With the face of a lion on the right side and the face of an ox on the left side and the face of an eagle. It isn't clear from the narrative where the face of the eagle is attached, but anyway, there you see the animals attending God. In fact, it's said that the sole of their foot was the sole of a calf's foot. This continuous written Bible was compiled after the fall of the northern kingdom and is largely done by people in the southern kingdom who were not sympathetic to what happened with the calves and Jeroboam, and possibly with contributions from northern kingdom refugees or descendants of refugees who were also searching for a reason why the kingdom fell. Interestingly, the words spoken by Jeroboam when he first installs the calves in the First Kings are nearly identical to the words Aaron speaks when he introduces the calf in Exodus. Here are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. In his book, Who Wrote the Bible?, scholar Richard Elliott Friedman states, at a minimum we can say that the writer of the golden calf account in Exodus seems to have taken the words that were traditionally ascribed to Jeroboam and placed them in the mouths of the people, adding that this account could have been a polemic written by a family of priests sidelined by Jeroboam. And one thing we do see in the Exodus version, which is right under our nose, although Cecil B. DeMille leaves it out, is that right after presenting the golden calf to the people, Aaron says, tomorrow shall be a festival of the Lord. And in Hebrew version, he uses the word Lord that leaves no doubt he is talking about Yahweh, not about the calf. And what about the line from Aaron where he is presenting the golden calf? These are your gods, O Israel. There's only one calf, right? So why plural? Well, the Bible uses plural for the God, our God, the Hebrew God, and singular for other gods mentioned in the text. So again, was this a reference to Yahweh? Throughout the story, the scholars see other indications of ancient rivalries putting their spins on events. For instance, you may recall that Moses comes down from the mountain bearing the 2 tablets from God with the commandments, and he is so mad about what everybody is doing that he throws the tablets down and breaks them. That's actually kind of uncool, right? God gives him these special tablets and he goes and smashes them. He preferences his own anger over his devotion to God. What's up with that? It has been pointed out that the southern kingdom was where the Ark of the Covenant was part of the tradition, and breaking the tablets could have been a commentary on the Ark of the Covenant tradition, just as slaying the golden calf followers was a commentary on the northern tradition of depicting animal attendants. Then there is Aaron, who is actually the ringleader of the whole golden calf thing, and Aaron was a Levite. So when they send the Levites in there to kill all the people who worship the golden calf, Aaron was one of them. So he participates in killing the people for doing what he told them to do a few pages before. At least the Levites participate, and he is a Levite. They don't specifically show him killing the people. You can see why many experts believe this narrative was grafted together from different sources. But one thing you can see for sure is that the story celebrates the piety of the Levites, who emerge as the noble defenders of the faith against the faithless golden calf people. By tradition, this passage is thought to define the role of the Levites as the priest class of the Hebrews. They earn the right to be the priests by standing by God against the presumed forces of the golden calf. So that simple, singular vision of the golden calf story gets a little lost when you get up close to it. Does that mean it doesn't mean anything? That we can't learn anything from it today? I don't know. I think we can learn even more from it. When I think about this story, I see the struggle between these different factions who are all trying to tell the story of the times in a way that benefits their own group. Trying to define events in a way that one group is on God's side and the other group is the group that God thinks is evil. Actually, it reminds me quite a bit of our times, with these different stories going on and different factions living inside these different story bubbles. And it's also simple and clear to believe that the people who built the golden calf are irredeemably evil, and the Levites who killed them are infallibly righteous, including Aaron, who appears to be in both camps, and that doesn't seem to bother anybody because he is Aaron. And no matter how hard you try to tell the story your way, these echoes of a larger, more complex reality are still out there, even thousands of years later. But this is a sermon, not an amateur history class. So you would be right to wonder, what do we do? How do we navigate through this tangle of interests and viewpoints? And I think the answer goes back to those commandments, which E and J both agree on. I know in our time, and I imagine in their time too, those commandments could serve as a beacon to avoid a lot of the messy and ambiguous business humans get tangled up in. Love thy neighbor is one we talk about a lot in church, and maybe one that we as a culture should be talking about more in churches and elsewhere in the noise of our social media is, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. So we all know the old way to think about the golden calf, Cecil B. DeMille's way, the way we learned it in Sunday school. Here's another way. Take it or leave it. We'll never know exactly what happened back then, but it shouldn't surprise anyone that maybe, just maybe, the golden calf people weren't really the most evil form of evil, and maybe the Levites weren't the most righteous form of righteous, and maybe Moses had anger issues, and maybe Aaron had a whole lot to pray about and atone for. To me, such revelations don't compromise the story at all. They make it come alive. Praise be to God.